The world's a better place because you are here to join us. My name is Matt Brown, and I am the host of the Productive Conversations podcast. I'm so excited to begin our coverage of the NBA postseason. Me and the great fresh faces, new ideas here, and we're about to kick off our 2-month coverage of the NBA playoffs. So what's up, faces?
What's up? I'm kind of mad that I don't get to watch Wemby play basketball for another, I don't know, whenever the fucking Olympics are. That's it.
Yeah, I think we got 3 months till then, late July. But hey, he played spoiler last night against the Nuggets and moved the seating around. So it's already showing his impact. And clearly your rookie of the year. But we'll go with the player awards a little later on we get closer. But you have a lot to look forward to, faces. I'm sure you obviously know that.
All right.
Yeah. All right, let's kick it off. First things first, introduce. Now, this is our third season with this, the NBA play-in tournament, which I think has actually been a good idea. And we have some intriguing matchups. One that starts this Tuesday, the 7-8 game. We have the Los Angeles Lakers and the New Orleans Pelicans. So whoever wins this locks in the 7th seed. They will play the Nuggets in the West. Talk to me right away. How you feeling about this? These two teams happen to play each other in the last game of the season, with the Lakers actually trying and getting a solid win. Can they do it again at New Orleans and keep the momentum going here with LeBron and AD? Everybody's healthy right now. We also have a healthy bunch in New Orleans. What do you think about this matchup right now, Lakers and Pelicans?
If I'm the Lakers, I want to lose this game. Let's be clear. The winner of this game gets the opportunity to get curb stomped by the Nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
That's the 2 seed. So you get to play Denver. I don't think the Lakers have beaten Denver in like 2 years.
Yes, I know for a fact the season series was a sweep.
And they got swept in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
So like you don't want to play, you want to hide from Denver as long as possible. So I think, and especially if you're LA, where your strengths are basically you're a big physical team, matching up against the Thunder, who are the 1 seed, is the ideal for you, because while they're younger and they can run, and Shea was really good, they're also really small. Like outside of Chet, they don't really have any size.
Yeah.
And while they have they have good wings, like Jalen Williams is pretty good. They got Lou Dort, so they have some wings who can match, but they don't have like interior size, and that's the thing that the Lakers can take advantage of. But yeah, I don't know. I whoever wins this game loses. That's basically it. I don't know what to make of this Pelicans team.
Hey, your boy Zion made it a full season. That's already a step up in the right direction.
Yeah, which is fine, and so they'll get a full look at this, but they're not going to beat Denver. Like we don't know this team's going to show up at what point. It's just a weird. It sucks. You win this game, and then you're going to get beat by Denver. It doesn't matter. Honestly, it doesn't.
So it's basically, you're in a fucked situation either way, which I do agree with you. And that's what was interesting about how the seedings actually folded with the last two, with the last weekend in particular. But here in a clear example here, regardless, I do think for momentum's sake, you have at least someone get a playoff win, when the Lakers, I think, could use it the most. But I understand too, you are running into you're a lame duck situation, if you will. So that's where I'm going with this matchup. But probably the one even more interesting one, the one that will follow here, the 9-10 game. So whoever wins this game will play the loser of the 7-8 game. And with that, it's going to go down to Golden State in Sacramento. So say if obviously the Pelicans wins and the Lakers go, you have a good matchup possibly if Golden State can win. And they've been hot as of late. And then the Sacramento team, who had a very underwhelming season compared to where they were last year, but sneak right in the playoffs. What I think both teams would have a favorable matchup either way by winning this. But who do you think ultimately can sneak it out for two teams that were a bit underwhelming this season in the West?
No, hold on. The Kings weren't underwhelming. They won two less games than they did last year. Like
Mm-hmm.
the difference wasn't that they got worse. It's the West is just so much fucking better, like than it
Right.
was last year.
And
Like
I
if
just
you
wish they
put
were
them in
more
the
dominant
East,
where they were.
like if you put them in the East, I think they would be the 3 seed. Um, like that's where it is. Like in the East, only one team in the Eastern Conference. Actually, I think the Knicks won 50 games, so maybe they would have been like
Yeah,
the 7th seed. Uh, like only one team in the East wouldn't have been in the plans. So like this is probably going to be the most entertaining play-in game because they gave us the best first round series last year. Um, I don't know, like both teams have like a lot of flaws. If you're the Lakers, like the problem with the 9-10 game coming after, obviously I think this is the right move because it deters teams from doing basically what we're arguing that you should just throw a game. Um, yeah, I think if you're the Lakers, you still feel pretty confident about beating either of these teams. Obviously, you would hope it would be Sacramento because the idea of having to deal with Steph Curry in a do or die game at any point is just always terrifying. Um, so I don't know. It's this will be the best, probably the best game of the play-ins, um, because it's the two teams that care the most. And like this is Golden State's like last hurrah,
that's what I was
and
gonna
that
say. Do you think that pretty much they're gonna clean house if they lose this? You know, Draymond with expiring contract. What is Clay's career trajectory at this point? You know, Steph still has plenty left, but it seems like that era is coming to an end. It was the Steph Clay one, if you will.
yeah, no, I think there's teams. I think Draymond's going to be there. I don't think Clay is.
Okay.
Um, I think they had a lot of ability to remove Draymond earlier this year, and I think that they just decided he's more important because you can kind of replace Clay
Mhm.
with just the shooting and stuff, but you need Draymond's defense. And I mean, obviously, he hasn't punched anyone in like 2 months, so there's
Got to
that's
step
always
the
been
right direction
beneficial.
after the suspension earlier this year.
Um, but yeah, these are like again the same thing is I think if Golden State ended up being the 8th seed, I think that would be a really fun matchup with them playing against Oklahoma City. Uh, because it would be, the youngest team in the league versus one of the older teams. The last time, there's animosity between these two franchises. Uh, it would be a very interesting like passing the torch moment for Oklahoma City to have to play. And I think out of the four teams in the plan, Oklahoma City matches up better against both Golden State and uh, the Kings. Like they're both teams that they don't have to worry about a lot of size. Um, Certainly with Golden State they don't. But I don't know. Again, it's like the 8th seed is ideally what you still there? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, my thing. Um, the 8th seed is ideally where you'd want to be. Um, but I don't know. It's whoever gets it is it's going to be the more interesting series because I think Denver is either going to they'll lose like one against either of these teams. It's not to say that the Lakers didn't play them close, but they haven't really gotten better. And maybe Denver's taking a little bit of a step back because they don't have Bruce Brown's defense in the same way, but they're they're still better. Like they don't have an like Jokic. He like saves this directly for when he plays against the Lakers. There's going to be at least once a game where he hits that like step back with like a fraction of a second left on the shot clock, where and it's just that moon ball from like you can't do anything about it. He does that like once a game against the Lakers. So I
Or get
imagine he'll
like
be
a behind the pass moment with a perfect assist that nobody sees coming. And
yeah.
that's why he's your MVP again. It's as simple as that. And as they've been coasting, so I almost get the vibe that between the 1 and 2 seeds, at least in terms for the 1 and 2 seeds seeding, it doesn't really matter. Like you just feel, I knowing you and you were very high in Denver at the beginning of the season, you just feel like despite it being stacked, and some people going as far as to say the East and West, this whole playoffs is as open as possible. You still feel that it's still Denver's to take. It's pretty much Denver and whoever comes out of the East, which we'll obviously get more detail with.
Well, yeah, there are teams like it's very possible that the Lakers get that eighth seed. They can go on a run. Like it's possible that Dallas could go. They've been very hot. I think Minnesota doesn't have enough firepower this year. I don't trust the Clippers' health.
Yeah, me
and then
neither,
I just don't trust the Pelicans. So it really does feel like it's Dallas and Phoenix. Like Phoenix could definitely get hot against somebody.
Yeah, and
I don't
they've
think
won
they
7
have
of their
enough.
last 10 right now.
I don't know if they have enough to ultimately like go through all 4 rounds because they're really shallow. But it very much feels that this is still pretty much you got to go through Denver.
I see. And with the Phoenix part of it too, how do you feel about, where this play with the big three there and with Dre, Devin, and Bradley Beal? Do you feel, even though they've won 7 of their last 10, do you feel at least Phoenix has something left in the run? And we'll break down Phoenix and Minnesota a little later, but some early thoughts on that. Do you think anything of it, and especially where they've been lately?
I mean, it's been a disappointing season for them. That mostly just looking at from a health standpoint, but they were championship or bust. And this is a good model in the new cap era of like having no assets and having like I don't know where they go. Like they just re-signed Grayson Allen for 4 for $70. Not to say he didn't deserve that, but you're gonna have like $10 in a bag of peanuts next year to fill out the rest of your rotation. We saw what happened, like basically to start it. And like, who are they gonna trade for anything if they're trying to do it? They don't have any picks. They don't have like, who's gonna trade for Nurkic? Like what do they have to offer anybody?
Nobody. That's why they have to somehow scrap their way into a deep run. But we can get that in a little later. Now focusing on the East play-ins. First for the 7-8 game, we have Miami and Philly. What do you think about this matchup right here? Very interesting matchup. I think it could also be a lot of fun to watch.
If I'm the Knicks, I'm worried about Philly. I think Embiid looks healthy. I mean, I know he limped off the game against Orlando earlier last week, but I think there is a reason they were the only team that was really viewed as a threat to Boston. Miami is obviously like more of a mental hurdle than they are like a physical hurdle. I think Boston's better than them. The Knicks are certainly as good as them. I think another Knicks Miami series is going to be a rock fight. I mean, DiVincenzo's been really good. Hart's good, but I don't know how much firepower this Knicks team can really muster. And I don't know where you go outside of Brunson. Like Tibbs isn't playing Bogdanovich.
Has it been
and
not a
I
lot?
don't
Hasn't gotten a
know,
lot of minutes. He started off
I don't
slow,
know how
but he's got
much
better.
OG is going to be able to hold up in the series. Not that I'm not talking about like his inability to play. I'm talking about physically how healthy he is. And I think this is where losing Randall's an issue. But like, they had their first 50-win season since I think it was 2012.
That's right, the mellow year.
And you actually have like a stable franchise. Like you're very clearly on the up and up. You got a guy who shows that he could be the 1A at least on a regular season team. We'll have to see in the playoffs. But you're missing. I think the best thing that comes out of it is very clear that they're not going to waste money on Donovan Mitchell. They're going to go after something else. Like, there's the Mikal Bridges stuff because he's a Villanova guy. There's, I think Paul George would be an interesting player to put on that team.
What about
I don't know.
DeMar DeRozan? How about that? People who are interested in that.
I guess it depends on the price. Like, because he is going to be a free agent. So if you can get him for something relatively cheap, but it's really just a firepower issue. The idea is not to overextend for like the wrong guy. Like trading for like Donovan Mitchell would be a mistake, or because you don't need another small guy. You need a larger wing who could score. Um,
How about, obviously I have been very, very vocal about my fandom with the Knicks, and I do expect and I hope to see them make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. And especially think with their two-way play and being hot lately, I do think it's possible. Won't be easy, but I do think it's possible. They should definitely win the first round. And I understand the big matchup with the Sixers and the Heat have always played well. It'd be interesting too. Julius Randle actually got hurt against the Heat in February this year. But one thing about the Knicks is a concern is you're right. There isn't a solid two. Who is the person to get that second shot if Jalen Brunson gets double team? Now, I thought, as you mentioned, Dante can be that person, and it's just a matter of showing if he's clutch or not. But he's had a spectacular season. It's been very good for him, and we need Josh Hart to get the rebounds most of all, and see what Mitch Robinson can do if he can offer anything. But I expect this Knicks team to be coherent with each other and at least be close and make a deep run with their two-way play.
I think if you get Miami, you're in a much better shape. Then I think Philly is. Mm-hmm. If Embiid is healthy, I think they just have too much firepower between that and Maxey. Because I think Maxey can more or less. I know Brunson's been better, but you can get like 80% of a Brunson from a Maxey, and then whatever. You got Buddy Hield, and at some point Tobias Harris might do something.
He'll be the alpha, the secret ingredient for them.
Like they have a interesting like Philly team, and I think they're like, they feel different. Like they have a difference, especially with Embiid back, that they have a different like level of confidence if he's healthy. Like I think health is a lot more of a variable in the East than it is in the West this year. I think basically outside of Boston, like the big contenders all have health issues.
Hey, quick thing. We have a Woj bomb. Faces. ESPN reports that the Nets are planning to hire Kings Jordi Fernandez as the franchise's next head coach. Not too familiar with Fernandez, are you?
I have no idea who that is.
Oh, sorry. Fernandez. Jordi Fernandez. Yeah, he was he was the associate head coach for the last 2 years. He's the Canadian head coach. This will be his first time taking over. This is his first time being a head coach in the NBA. He's from Spain, only 41. Interesting.
I'm going to say it sucks for that guy. Like good, you're getting a head coach, but this is like, I don't know if there's a more bleak outlook for a future team than the Nets.
Tell me about it.
Like, if they really did turn down, we've talked about this a bunch, this will always be like such an interesting inflection point, like multiple picks and Jalen Green for Mikal Bridges. That like it's an absolute travesty.
It's like they're purposely trying to mess with the franchise at that point.
Yeah. So I mean, I wish him the best of luck. The real thing is like you have to take a job like that with guarantees that like, hey, look, there's only so much I'm going to be able to do with this roster. Because they're coming in this year, they were hoping Ben Simmons was going to be like the piece that they built their whole team around.
Not even close. Nick Claxton wasn't as.
Yeah, Claxton might not even be there next year.
Yeah, he's going to be a hidden gem for someone. And last thing with this, before we just talk about Atlanta, Chicago, say the Knicks do make a deep run without Julius Randle. Some people feel like maybe he could be a trade option. Would you trade Julius if you make it to Eastern Conference Finals without him?
It depends on what you get. Like would I trade Julius Randle for like Trae Young? No. Again, it depends on like what the options. I think ideally you could dangle him. I would be interested to see who would try to trade for him. But the thing with Julius Randle is like he's been good like every other year, but you have no way like you're like praying every playoffs that he's not terrible. Like he hasn't been good in the playoffs.
Yep, and he's
But
been
at
injury
least
prone
I think
too.
he's expiring this year. So maybe somebody's looking for cap space. I don't know who that is.
What if you did all the first round picks the Knicks have in Julius for Mikal Bridges to complete the Villanova reunion?
Yeah, I mean that would be the trade. It would be some type of salary match with another team. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, again, what was the stat that the Knicks haven't made a trade with the Nets for players in like 40 years or some like crazy?
Yeah, they have never done it since they first entered the league in '82. So yeah,
Yeah,
I better
so
see
I mean
that
that would be
today.
interesting. I think he's an interesting trade piece. I think if the Knicks make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, which they certainly have the ability to, just because of how terrible the East is. Um, the the idea that they're not having enough firepower and like talking up Julius Randle to try to trade him would be interesting. But again, it depends on like who's available and who's coming. Like I think the the ideal guy would be somebody like Towns, but I don't see Towns leaving in anymore.
Yeah,
Unless he's
especially
like
for what they're
truly,
building.
truly horrendous during the playoffs because they need him. So like I don't know. Are you monitoring Phoenix in case they blow it up? Like I don't really know where you would like Julius Randle for Zach LaVine is a bad trade.
Yeah, I
Like
think those
it just
those
is.
interests died too.
So I don't know. I guess it depends on who's available, what people are looking for.
Yeah, and like we said, this we'll definitely have to see how deep they make it this season as well. I think that'll be a major factor. All right, let's continue on with the 9-10 game in the Atlanta Hawks and the Chicago Bulls on Wednesday night. Do we see any of these teams being interesting in this matchup?
No, it's only interesting about what they're doing next offseason because Atlanta is the most meh team in the league, but they're like, oh, we have Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, and we may trade one of them. Um, but like, I mean, Trae Young will probably get the back, but they like, who cares? I hope Chicago beats them. I hope they go into a rebuild. I hope they
Yeah.
rebuild for the next. I hope Atlanta rebuilds for the next 3 years, and they
Hmm.
just suck every year. Uh, Especially next year. I want them to win the number one pick next year.
And
Um,
start some revolution.
well,
Okay.
no, because they don't have their pick. They don't have any of their picks for the next 3 years.
Mm.
Uh, and then Chicago. Look, Kobe White should win Most Improved. Um,
Oh man, he's had some really great season this year.
yeah, like I don't know. Is Patrick Williams hurt?
Patrick Williams is injured.
Okay, because like I the last thing I heard about him is he wanted $200 million. Um,
Yeah, I know this just from he didn't play in the Knicks Bulls last night, but yeah, he's done. He's not going to be a factor in this postseason.
yeah, I mean up Demar's value, I guess. Like it doesn't matter. Both of these teams are going to be ideally drastically different next year. Um, because they're like they're like the Nets are as a team, but they're like future is bleak. These teams are just like nobody
Mm.
cares. Nobody's scared of the Hawks. Like nobody's scared of the Bulls. Like yeah, it sucks that the Bulls thing didn't work out because Lonzo's legs were destroyed by whatever the shoes he was wearing or whatever the fuck happened with him for the last 3 years. But it's a it is like it is like so bad that they haven't made that 3-on-0 fast break is like the unmost it is maybe the worst play I've seen in my life. Um like just across it is such a level of like lack of basketball IQ. I don't even know how to describe that it happened on a professional level.
Do you think it should
Just
have? If you were Billy Donovan and you heard about the Kentucky rumors, he denied he wanted to stay in the NBA. Should he have just gone back to college, take over Kentucky?
I would have because like the thing with Billy Donovan is it's a combination of him like the Chicago job when he first took it was interesting, but like he's gotten a raw deal. Like a lot of like he's had these have been his most consistent teams, and they've been mid. Like when he first came in the NBA, he had Katie and Russ, then he had Russ, then he had Russ, Katie, then he had Russ and Paul George and Melo, and then he had them for like 2 years, and then everybody left, and then he left to Chicago, and then like he had that weird team where they were like trying to build around marketing and Wendell Carter Jr. and Kobe White, and then they did this other thing with the Vooch trade. I think he's just had really bad luck, and I don't know how good a coach he is. I think go back to college, go win some more. He's already one of the best college coaches ever. Why not just take some time to do it? Because like the thing is, if you do good in college, it like washes away all the stink of how bad you were in the NBA.
Yeah, and that's worked in the NFL especially too. But yeah, disappointing to say the least. But amongst this, though, you see the 7th seed going to it. It's a toss up, but you would see Philly taking that 7th seed.
I think they're better. Yeah.
And then
I think it's gonna be 7-8, Philly, Miami. I don't
okay.
honestly. Boston prays it's like Atlanta, or
yeah, right.
I honestly, Boston just doesn't want to see either Philly or Miami. I mean, it would be nice. Like this is kind of. I know it's not the same analogy, but like when LeBron was in Cleveland and he kept having to bang his head up against that Big Three Celtics team, like Boston's got to beat. They played Miami close. They've already lost them twice. Like you don't want to see Miami. They're your boogeyman at this point. You certainly don't want to see Joel Embiid because he's probably the best player in the East. So yeah, they're hoping for either the not the Kings, the Hawks or the Bulls to come out because they're just going to curb stomp them. They may lose a game to the Hawks because Trae Young gets hot or like DeJounte Murray takes 50 shots because they don't care, but they're going to destroy either of those teams.
And speaking of the Celtics, though, coming in as a number 1 seed and seeing the high expectations they have, how do you see the Celtics postseason run unfolding? How do you
anything short of a final appearance? And like, I don't think they're better than Denver. So if they play like Denver, they're probably going to lose. But anything short of a final appearance, especially this year, like the East is open. Like it's theirs to lose by like such a wide margin. It's like not even funny. There's like nobody. This is like when LeBron was tearing everybody apart, and we're like, oh, maybe this team could. Like, no, the second best team had their best player miss like 30 games. How many games did Joel Embiid miss? Something like that. And then the team that people thought was going to be the second or third best team. We don't know how healthy Giannis is going to be, and they've been a train wreck the entire time. And they're coached by Doc Rivers, so they may just get swept. And then you can't worry about the Pacers because Halliburton's not healthy. You maybe worry about the Knicks, but they're better than the Knicks. Like if anything short of a final appearance, is just an absolute disaster. And I don't even know how you melt down, especially like if they lose in round 1 to the Heat again, or if they lose to the Heat in round 1. I don't even know what happens. Like that team has to have such a terrible collapse for something like that to happen.
Yeah, and you wouldn't even know where it would come from, where to go. You have the pieces, and they made it this whole way. Especially KP. KP made it a whole season. What a win there! And if you fall to an 8 seed, yeah, you definitely could question Joe Mazzulla's
Well, I mean, it
power
depends.
of that.
Like if Porzingis gets hurt immediately and he can't play, that's obviously a good. Although one of the things I'm kind of surprised about, and this is a little off topic, is I wonder if Milwaukee would have traded Drew if he had told them he was going to stick around. Because my understanding was he was going to retire like after next season. That he said he was like basically done after 25.
I actually didn't know that really, and he just signed a contract extension.
Right, that's why I was surprised about the contract. Like maybe it's different in Boston where the pressure is not as high on him. but I thought the feeling was he was kind of done.
There must be a better culture than they could just beat themselves at that point if that's true.
Yeah. So I mean, Boston has to go to the finals. Otherwise, they had multiple people had to get hurt, or it's just like a collapse.
All right, now let's talk about the matchups. Let's talk about the 3, 6, and 4, 5 matchups. First, with Milwaukee as your 3 seed taking on Indiana. So, as you mentioned, Giannis, he's either going to play and not be 100% or miss the series completely. And we also have Halliburton, who is injured as well. So, two banged up teams. Who's going to take over?
It depends on how much Giannis is playing. I think the last I saw is he may miss game 1. Look, the Pacers have like kicked the crap out of them this whole season. Granted, Halliburton was healthy and they didn't have Pascal Siakam, so they were a little bit different then. I think if Milwaukee wins, it's going to be in 7, but they can definitely lose in less. Like they could lose in 6, and obviously the length of this series is going to be determined by Giannis, like whether or not he's healthy or not. But I mean, if he's not healthy, I think they get swept. If he's hobbled, maybe they get to 6, but they're going to need a healthy Giannis. And obviously, this Pacers, like they could either sweep. This Pacers team is pretty up in the air too. Like you never really know who they dropped 157 on the Hawks, but then they could like get blown out the next day. Like they don't have the defense to guard them.
But do you think everybody now will start playing more defense in the NBA, which seems to be in the NBA playoffs? It seems to be their tradition.
Well, it's so like the idea that defense isn't like played as much is kind of goofy. So the scoring binge had to do with the fact that players are just like really fucking good, and that prior to the All-Star break they were officiating fouls different. They were being a lot more lenient with where you could just like run into a guy and like throw your hands up and get the foul call. So that had a thing to it. I think that it'll be tighter, but these are not like defensive juggernaut teams. Like at this point, Halliburton is basically guaranteed for 25 and 12 against like that's like the baseline for what a guard is going to do against Dame. Like he just can't go. Like it's not that he can't guard it. He's just a bad defender. Like across, he just is. It's not entirely clear where Middleton is. I think Milwaukee, the saving grace for this Bucks team is they'll probably have one more shot before Giannis wants out. And because like this, if they rookie head coach, and then they went to Doc Rivers, and I don't know if Doc Rivers is going to be there. And then, they've had a season to figure out where their deficiencies are. So they'll probably have one more shot at this. But, the Pacers don't really care. Like, they're playing with house money. Halliburton rushed himself back so he could qualify for the 65-game threshold to potentially make a third team all NBA. And, they'll have a whole offseason to gel with Siakam. Maybe they'll move some guys for something else because they got a bunch of interesting pieces. Maybe actually Jared Walker will actually be, affected. Mathurin, wasn't great this year. So, they have some, they're playing with house money. If they win this series, good for them.
Good for them indeed. Now, why don't we talk about the 4-5 matchup in the East? The Cleveland Cavaliers taking on the Orlando Magic. Cleveland not trying or caring against the Hornets on Sunday, and they got themselves the matchup they wanted. Very interesting. We have a returning Magic. I don't think they've been in the playoffs. Correct me if I'm wrong. Since yeah, okay, so it's been a while. But we have the first time Paolo's in the playoffs. Pretty cool stuff from there. What do we think about? And then Cleveland, very interesting season, of course. What do we think about Cavs and Magic?
I think Orlando's going to bully the absolute fuck out of them.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a serious threat.
I understand we don't want to play Boston or, we don't want the 2 seed to play Miami. But like, I don't know if you could have figured out a worse matchup for Cleveland than this Orlando's team. Like, Cleveland's best players are their two little guards, and Orlando just has pit bull defenders with Jalen Suggs, and Phelps is not a bad, but they have Jonathan Isaac. They got big defensive guys. Like, if Mobley's not doing anything, like it's not gonna matter. And then the Cleveland's weakness is they don't have wings. Like, Max Strus is not gonna guard Paolo, and I mean, though Franz can't shoot for shit. Like this is going to be an ugly series because of the Magic's defense and their just absolute inability to, like, we talk about the Knicks not having offense. Orlando has like the 90s offense. Like, they cannot score. They're a bad shooting team just across the board. I think that's probably why they're like one of the big teams going after Clay next year, because they just cannot shoot for shit. I think Orlando wins this in 5 or 6. And then Donovan Mitchell goes to like LA, because I don't know who else is going to trade for him. But they tried it. It was a failure. There is an alternate universe where Lauri Markkanen just makes the jump that he did last year as a member of the Cavs, and they're just a better team than they were where they currently are. But yeah, you make this swing because it seems like it, but this is I hope they get destroyed, partly because like it is a little bit of hubris to be like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to play this. I'm going to mess with the matchups in order to pick my teams. And one of the ways, I think one of the next innovations that the NBA is going to do is try to figure out how to make the playoff seedings so that you can't like jockey to do that. Like, maybe you can pick your opponent type of stuff.
Ooh, that'd be really good. Get some
That was what
bulletin board
KOC
material.
was arguing.
Okay, I like that idea. Again, I'm really excited to see where that goes. Now let's focus on the West, the 3 and the 6, the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Phoenix Suns. Where's this going?
I think this goes 7. I know Phoenix beat them pretty handily recently, but I don't like neither of these teams are deep, and Anthony Edwards man to being the best player of the series. But I think I trust Minnesota's defense a little bit more than I trust Phoenix's ability to like score. Not to say that they can't, but I think of the teams that could potentially, threaten Phoenix, Minnesota has pretty good chance. Like, they have Jalen McDaniels, who's a pretty good defender, and it's a good defender in his own right. Bradley Beal might just get hurt. Like Bradley Beal hasn't played in the playoffs in like almost 10 years. Like, what was the last time the Wizards was it with Russ?
Yeah,
I think
I'd have to. The last
I think it was
Wizards
with
probably
Russ.
the last
They
time they were in the postseason was. Forgive me 1 second.
I'm pretty sure it was with Russ, but like,
2021. They played the 6.
Yeah.
They were the 8 seed against the Sixers.
Right. So like, it's not been good for him in the series. I don't know. I think Phoenix the has the ability to blow teams out. I think we'll see. The question is, can Minnesota's defense slow them down enough that what they can squeak out enough offense? Because that's going to be their problem, is their ability to score. Not that let's be clear, not because Phoenix is a defensive juggernaut. It's because Minnesota just doesn't have great scorers outside of like Ant and Cat. I mean,
And you don't even know if Cat's 100% either.
Offensively, Nurkic and Rudy Gobert probably have the same level of offensive capability. And Nurkic might get hurt too. Like, I don't know. This is a weird matchup. It's gonna get feisty though. I kind of hope that Minnesota wins, because it's just funny that like all these the Devin Booker keeps like talking shit to all these teams, and they just freaking own him. But he can go thermonuclear. The only reason Denver didn't lose like 2 games in the playoffs last year is because he just I think he missed 7 shots over 2 games.
And look at what happened. And yeah, it's weird. As we talked about, the Suns really never hitting that full potential. Reckon you understood what you were getting, even though you get a superstar. You do have an injury-prone one. And even with the role players not being up to par, you do think, hey, maybe the Suns team could just win in the postseason, at least get a round out of it. And beating a T-Wolves team that had a lot going, I think it's interesting to see where these two franchises go, particularly. And ironically, too, they've had both ownership issues recently. And how do you feel about the T-Wolves thing? Again, I guess between A-Rod and Lore, they were accused of seller's remorse, and they were trying to back out of the deal, but then trying in. I don't know if you've been following that.
I haven't followed enough to do it. To say anything. Look, it's kind of ridiculous to sell a franchise at this point. They're just like, even the shitty ones are so profitable.
Oh yeah, all sports franchise. Everyone's at least worth $2 billion. Look how far that's come. I guess maybe they want to see where it goes. Maybe I've heard things about like figuring out the valuation. If they sell, let them sell. I believe the NBA's TV deal is coming to an end. Is it this year or the next year? And
but the other thing is, like, the Timberwolves are, like, if you're gonna own the Timberwolves, you're gonna be a tax team. Like, real soon. You're gonna have some big decisions. Like, this offseason, I don't know if they're gonna be able to keep Naz Reid. Like, that's the type of stuff that they're looking at. Because you're gonna be paying $50 million to Towns, to Rudy Gobert. You're probably paying, Ant's gonna sign a contract probably worth more than Jaylen Brown is. And you're gonna have to keep Mike Conley. Actually, I think they re-signed him anyway. But like, you're gonna have to pay Jalen McDaniel. Like, they're gonna hit a cap crunch. Like, of the top seeded teams, they were the one with the bleakest future. Because there's no reinforcements coming through the draft. You don't have any picks.
And more of a reason why they need to have a deep run then, for at least morale's sake. And what's cool, what's interesting about the TV deal, assuming once they get that deal going, I heard after that they'll have enough money for expansion and can get 2 new franchises. Probably, I would assume Vegas and Seattle.
Yeah, and I think somebody's going. One of the Western Conference teams is going east, and I think it's New Orleans is what I saw.
That would make the most sense geographically. But we'll see what happens there. I always joke about how the Nets should move, but I know that won't happen for a plethora of reasons. But sometimes
their stadium's not even that old. The Barclays Center is like only a decade old.
Exactly. That alone reason why to stay, even though no one really shows up. But that's a funny story for another day. And the last matchup to talk about, 2 teams that have quite the history in the Los Angeles Clippers and the Dallas Mavericks, the 4 and 5. This is going to be cool to watch what's happening here.
Oh, Dallas is going to win. They're going to get over the hump. So, one, I think Kawhi's hurt already. I think I saw something that his knees are swollen already and he might not be able to play. Which, to be fair, like, had Paul George and Kawhi played last year, they would have beaten Phoenix. But I think Luka basically by himself almost beat them like 3 years ago. And now, you got Kyrie Irving, who's actually played well and been calm.
Yeah, he's had a great season.
They have Gafford and Lively, who are, big bodies that really the Clippers don't have. They don't have that type of size. Like, they have Zubac, and then that's like it. And again, you're always like, you're going into the playoffs with some combustible ass players. Like, you're going in with James Harden. You're going in with Paul George. You're going in like with Westbrook, who may make a play. Like, the reason nobody takes the Clippers seriously is you can't trust them. Like, they have no. Like, we've been at this for like 3 or 4 years now with them. Like, they first off, you don't know they're going to be healthy, and second off, like, you have some of the largest choke artists in history on this team.
Funny how that works.
So, I think the really like if they get like walloped because Kawhi can't play or something, they're gonna have problems because I don't know if they're gonna be able to keep Paul George.
Hey man, remember too, they're going into a new arena next year. They
Right,
are
no, but they
starting.
have Kawhi. They extended Kawhi. I think they're probably gonna extend Harden. But if I had a choice between Paul George and Harden, I think I would pick Paul George.
Yeah,
Um,
with that too, I'm just saying finally a real clean slate. You're not going to share an arena with the Lakers anymore. You're getting a whole new logo. If you do have to cut some loose ties while you finally start your being taken seriously
the real
era.
thing would have been to not re-sign Kawhi, see what this season happened, and then basically just come into the arena like as a fresh slate, like just blow everything
Yeah.
up. I don't know how many more first rounders they owe to Oklahoma City, but if you're gonna trade Paul George and Kawhi, you're probably gonna get some back.
Yeah,
Um,
I see it right here. They at least owe next year and the year after until 27. Sorry, so 26.
and then they probably owe some to Philly.
Man, I know this is, as we know infamously now that Shea was part of that Paul George trade. Imagine the alternate world where he just
Can I
wasn't a
can I
throwaway.
can I have a little rant on this because I see
Of
this all the
course.
time, like on Spurs Twitter.
Let it
Um,
out.
there's this idea of like you have to trade right now, just to trade for Damian Lillard, somebody like this. Like when they traded Shea Gilgeous-Alexander wasn't the centerpiece of that transaction. It was the first rounders that was. Like Shea was good, but if you would ask anybody in Oklahoma City or in the Clippers when they traded Shea if he was going to be this good, they all would have said no. They would not have like you've going back like, oh man, we could have like imagine how much better they was. Like nobody knew how good he was going to be then. Oh, talking about another thing. They traded with the Clippers just traded one knucklehead for another. They just cut Primo to sign Kai Jones, who the last time we saw Kai Jones, first of all, it looks like he's working in like a a Lowe's or something when he did his announcement, but he was having like mental breakdowns, like he needed help type of stuff. Uh, so I don't know what you're gonna get out of that, but it's a weird thing. Like just because like the way the Shea trade worked out doesn't mean that like you should rush it. The real prize of that wasn't Shea. Like it turned out great that he could like develop into this player, but I don't know if they would have they wouldn't have made that trade if they saw that was happening.
Of
It
course.
was really the picks. They wanted the
Yeah.
picks, and it worked out well because that's the thing. When you have a guy like Shea, you have a guy like Wembanyama, you have a guy like Luka, you you don't want to you want to obviously maximize them on their rookie contract because that's when they're cheapest. It's like the same thing with an NFL quarterback. Um, but you also want to like not blow your load on draft picks because you're not going to like they're going to be good enough that you're not going to get a lot of shots at. So you're either going to need a bunch of premium draft picks to like restock or be able to hit in the later rounds like the Spurs did when they had Duncan. But like just to like, oh, we have to go get the first big name. Like trading for Trae Young would not be solving San Antonio's problems. So that's my thing with Shea is like the idea that they knew how good Shea was going to be is just ridiculous. You take it because you want the picks because you want to take as many bites at the apple to get a guy like Shea. And the fact that they locked into him doesn't mean that that's like, oh, we always knew that this was like, nah, man.
Of
Like,
course. Yeah. It was just like you said, for lack of a better word, it was just luck. They didn't know what was going on, and just the only one who knew that he was that good was Shea himself. And look at him now.
like the Knicks when the Knicks signed Brunson 2 years ago. You think like Dallas wouldn't have let him go if he was going to be this fucking good,
Of
but they
course
didn't think
not.
he was going to be that good.
Man
The
was a
Knicks
bench player to
the Knicks
this.
certainly didn't think he was going to be this good. Like it was a hometown thing kind of signing. Like we're going to overpay to bring somebody in, and then they lucked out he was this fucking good.
Yeah. The best point guard since Clyde. And it just happens that way sometimes. It happens in all sports too. And well, that's the risk of making a trade. and it works both ways. But that covers it. Well, that covers our show for today. Hit everything we needed to. Like I said, we'll begin our weekly coverage of the NBA postseason. We'll be back next week with it after the first couple of games and see where this all unfolds. Thank you so much, Faces, for a great appearance, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes with you.